Hey guys, Will here from Sailing Cocoa. I'm going to be teaching you how to make homemade bread today. Alright, so to start making homemade bread, you're going to need a few ingredients. You're going to need a non-stick cooking spray. I'm using Pam. Some kind of oil, whether it be olive oil or vegetable oil. Something sugary, so I'm using honey. You can use brown sugar, maple syrup, regular sugar, etc. You're going to need some flour, and the most important ingredient of it all, some yeast. A mixing bowl, measuring cup, 1 cup preferably, and you're gonna want some loaf pans. I'm using 2 because we're gonna make 2 pieces of bread today. Okay, so to start things off, you're gonna want to get a half a cup of salt water from your backyard. If for some reason your backyard doesn't have salt water in it, you're just gonna want to get a half a cup of water and put some salt in it. Proceed to dumping your half cup of salt water in the mixing bowl. After you've done that, you're going to want to get 1 cup of fresh water, and then proceed to dumping it in the mixing bowl. We're going to be making two pieces of bread about this big today. You can put more water in, and obviously more ingredients if you want to make a bigger loaf of bread. Okay, so after you got your water in the mixing bowl, you're going to want to grab some yeast. We are going to fill up the cap about 1/3 of the way. So about there, that's pretty good. And just dump it in water. Okay, so now you should just have some yeast and water in the bowl. You're gonna wanna get your sugar, whatever it may be, we're using honey, and get 2 big scoops of it. That's pretty good. Do a little bit more actually. There we go. I'll do a little bit more because I missed some on my first scoop. Alright, now you're going to want to start mixing. Now as you're mixing, you're going to notice that it's going to get cloudy. And it's doing this because the yeast in there is eating the sugar. Stir it up. Try to get all of the chunks of yeast out. If you can't, it's okay though. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're going to get our flour. For the size loaf we're going with, 5 cups of flour. Okay, after you've dumped your 5 cups of flour in here, you're just going to want to start stirring. Okay. Should start to become doughy kind of. Start losing that wateriness to it. It should start all coming together. It's gonna get a little tough to stir. So when you get to this point, I just start to like using my hands. You can continue to stir if you'd like, but it takes a little longer. So just start working the bread if you're using your hands and pushing in with your thumbs and folding it. This is called kneading. Try to get all that combined into one big dough. I like to add oil in here so it doesn't stick to the sides. And it makes the dough easier to work with. So I add like about a shot in. This process takes a while, but it's very important to get your dough all to the right consistency. If your dough is slimy and is still sticking to your hands, add more flour. After you think you're done kneading the dough and getting it to the correct consistency, you're going to want to put your dough into the loaf pan. Now I'm going to split my dough into 2 pieces because I have 2 loaf pans. I'm making 2 kind of tiny pieces of bread because our oven isn't that big. If you are also splitting the dough, you're going to want to work it in the middle Now you don't want to just go ahead and rip it apart because it could wreck the consistency of the dough. So we're just gonna kind of almost like choke it out in the middle. Just keep working that with your thumbs like I am. Okay, and there we go. So before you set your dough ball into the loaf pan, you're gonna want to take Pam or whatever non-stick cooking spray you have. Shake it up, spray it on. This is an important step, so when your dough is rising, it doesn't stick to the loaf pan. All right, after you put Pam in your loaf pan, you're gonna want to start working your bread out to almost, it should look like a tube. So we can actually set this into our loaf pan to work it out. And flip your bread around because you want it to be all greasy so it doesn't stick anywhere. If your bread feels like it's sticking to areas, flip it around and you can actually just spray it with Pam. I'm gonna do that just on the top. Okay, so that one's ready to go and bake in the sun. But first we got another piece of dough to worry about. Okay, these are looking good. Now you're going to want to place your loaf pans with your dough in it somewhere warm so the bread can rise. I'm gonna place mine out in the sun, but if it's a rainy day, just find somewhere warm in the house and it should work. Okay, once you place your loaf pan somewhere warm, you're going to want to set your timer for 30 minutes an hour. I like to set mine for about 45 minutes. And then we're going to come back and check on these. Alright, it's been about an hour. Once the loaves start looking like this, they're ready to go in the oven. So I like to preheat my oven to about 350, somewhere around there. And then I like to wait for 15 minutes. And after that timer is up, I rotate the bread and wait another 15 and they should be ready. I like to rotate the loaves because it's hotter in the back of the oven. It's equal then on both sides. Alright, now we wait. Bread's been in the oven for about 15 minutes. We're gonna rotate it now so we can get both sides evenly cooked. Alright, remember guys, safety first. Close that up. Let's wait another 15. Alright, it's been 15 minutes, and I think our breads are ready. Let's check them out. Oh, they look good. There's one. And there's two. Alright, just waited like 5 minutes. Our loaf pans aren't hot anymore, so we're gonna flip these breads out. What I do is I just go like this. Let it come out slowly. There you go. Try to almost catch it so it doesn't fall out and slam. There is 2 fine pieces of bread. Thanks for watching guys. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial on how to make homemade bread. Get in the kitchen, start baking.